Ladies and gentlemen, capital G here, and in just a moment we'll be talking about Tanazir Quandrix as my deck for today. Before I do, just picking up where I left off in the last video, the original plan for today was actually going to be a Professor Onyx Chain of Smog Oathbreaker deck. It's not a format that I typically cover, but I figured it was a pretty good opportunity to cover this very powerful combo while also shining a spotlight on what I think is a very underappreciated alternative to Commander. However, this particular combo is basically in the context of Oathbreaker, and I'll leave a link for that format in the description. The idea is that you have a Planeswalker and a signature spell in the command zone. And, well, this combo is already pretty famous as is. The idea being that with Professor Onyx's Magecraft trigger, you can target yourself with the Chain of Smog infinite times and therefore have your opponents lose infinite life. So I wanted to cover that combo in an Oathbreaker format, but this particular combination of cards is actually under review by Oathbreaker's rules committee. So rather than make that video now and watch the deck list itself get banned in like 2-3 weeks, whatever it may be, I'm just going to let them do their thing, and if they decide going forward that this is okay to keep in the format, then I will release the deck tech. In the meantime, let's talk about Tanazir. It's going to be my newest paper commander, as I pulled this from my bundle last week, and I've already run sort of a test version of the deck, and it's pretty sweet. So, Tanazir Quandrix. In Simic colors, we have ourselves a 4/4 Elder Dragon. That's a blue, a green, and 3 generic for this monster with flying and trample. And when this enters the battlefield, double the number of +1/+1 counters on target creature you control. While this deck will have some +1/+1 counter synergies, I'm not leaning into that too heavily. What I am putting in is the second ability. Whenever Tanazir attacks, you may have the base power and toughness of other creatures you control become equal to Tanazir's power and toughness until end of turn. So if it's 4/4, that means all my other creatures are 4/4s until end of turn. If this is, say, a 6/6, 7/7, 8/8, 10/10, so is everybody else. And here's the cool thing, by the way. If all your other creatures have, say, additional +1 counters, or if there's Anthem effects in play, they'll get Tanazir's base power, and then they'll get the benefit of the counters and anthems. So I thought that was a really, really cool ability, and this is more what I played into when I built the deck. So let us start with our artifacts, of course. I'm not running very many, as you can see. I'm running 4. I'm running the Black Blade Reforged, as it's a pretty sweet piece of equipment to dump onto our commander, and it's still incredibly cheap to get. Black Blade Reforged, of course, giving the equipped creature +1/+1 for each land we control. It's 2 to cast and 3 to equip to a legendary creature. Also running Lightning Greaves and the Swiftfoot Boots, as we want to protect our commander from any sort of targeted removal shenanigans. Also running a Soul Ring. Moving on to our creatures, we're running a lot of them, 36. A lot of these are actually small, dorky creatures. We've got a few utility ones as well, like Beast Whisperer to help us draw some cards. But mana dorks are the way we're going for the most part, because we want to ramp out our commander quickly. And of course, all our mana dorks are already 1/1s. So turning those into 4/4s or better on the attack step, we're just gonna go wide and pound our opponents. It's actually a very aggressive strategy. So Beast Color Savant is the first of the mana dorks we're covering. A rare instance of a green creature with haste. 2 mana 1/1, and whatever we can tap it for a mana of any color that we can spend only to cast creature spells. That's fine. Benthic Biomancer. We do have some +1/+1 synergies, and Benthic Biomancer is definitely worth the investment. 1 mana 1/1. We can pay a blue and a generic to adapt. So if it doesn't already have a +1/+1 counter, we can put one on there. And also a cool trigger. Whenever one or more counters are put on the Benthic Biomancer, draw a card, then discard a card. Birds of Paradise. Yeah, all of a sudden, if we're swinging in with a 4/4, 7/7, 8/8, 12/12 Birds of Paradise out of nowhere, this deck can do that. Broodhatch Nantuko. So we can simply play it face up and take it at face value, or we can play it face down as a morph. Either way, when this card is on the board face up, whenever this is dealt damage, you create that many 1/1 insect creature tokens. Now, if we're swinging in with a, say, 4 power, 6 power, 7 power, 10 power Broodhatch Nantuko and our opponent has to block, that's just going to give us more creatures. Challenger Troll. Each creature you control with power 4 or greater cannot be blocked by more than one creature. So, yeah, just sort of just make sure our creatures can't get ganged up on. Our creatures are going to be at least 4 power when they attack because of our commander. Chasm Skulker, 3 mana for this 1/1, but whenever we draw a card, it gets +1/+1 counter. When it dies, we get squid creature tokens with Island Walk, where X is the number of 1/1 counters on the Chasm Skulker. So if we do get this out early and we can get some +1/+1 counters on him, it's going to be a beast attacker, and if it ever dies, we're going to have a bunch of squids. Coiling Oracle, just a 2-drop that gives us a little bit of card advantage or mana ramp, depending on what is on top of our library. The Cultivator of Blades. 5 mana for this 1/1 elf, but it has Fabricate, so we can either throw some +1/+1 counters onto the Cultivator, or we can have some 1/1 servos. Whenever Cultivator of Blades attacks, we may have other attacking creatures get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Cultivator of Blades' power. So, depending on the situation, let's say it's a 1/1, you chose to have your servos. This attacks with Tanazir. Tanazir will give him, will raise the base power and toughness, and then Cultivator of Blades will give the Anthem effect. So there'll be some attack triggers to stack in order to make your team humongous. Departed Deckhand. It's a 2 mana 2/2. If it ever becomes a target of a spell, we have to sacrifice it, but it cannot be blocked except by spirits. So, very evasive creature. 4 mana says another target creature we control cannot be blocked this turn except by spirits, so we can actually pass that evasion around if we have some extra mana lying around. Forgotten Ancient, of course, whenever any player casts a spell, it gets a +1/+1 counter. And at the beginning of our upkeep, we can move our 1/1 counters from Forgotten Ancient onto other creatures. We don't have to, of course, we could just simply have a humongous Forgotten Ancient. But nonetheless, excellent creature, great synergy here. Elysian Chara, 2 mana for this 1/1, that's taps for 1 mana of any color. If you control a creature of power 4 or greater, can tap for 2 instead. Pretty sweet. Curious Follower, 2 mana for this 2/2, untap another target permanent. Loyal Guardian, excellent synergy here. 5 mana for this 4/4 with Trample. It has the Lieutenant ability, which means as long as our commander is in play with the Loyal Guardian, at the beginning of combat, we control our commander, put a 1/1 counter on each creature we control. So that is really sweet. Managorger Hydra. 1/1 Trample for 3 mana, but whenever any player casts a spell, it gets a 1/1 counter. We can't move it around, but hey. It's a 1/1. Tanazir can raise its base power and toughness, so Tanazir is just increasing its power. Running the Mana Weft Sliver. Again, taps for mana of any color. Marrowleaf Pixie can tap for blue or green, and it's a 2/2 flyer for 2. Master Biomancer. Each other creature we control enters the battlefield with a number of 1/1 counters on it equal to Master Biomancer's power and is immune in addition to its other types. So let's say Biomancer, let's say it's our second main phase. We've already attacked with Tanazir, and Master Biomancer's power has been increased. Cast another creature, it's going to have a bunch of 1/1 counters on it. Merfolk Skydiver. When this enters the battlefield, we get a 1/1 counter on target creature we control. We can target itself or something else. And it also gives us a place to dump some mana if we want to proliferate. Morite of the Frost. It can come in as a copy of any permanent as we control. except it's legendary and snow in addition to its other types, and if it's a creature, it comes with 2+1/+1 counters on it and has changeling. So I think this is a cool little ad. Makes itself bigger right off the hop. Mercfiend Liege. This Simic powerhouse, blue, so Simic, and 2 for this 4/4 horror. Other green creatures we control get +1/+1. Other blue creatures we control get +1/+1. So that anthem effect we can spread across our commander and the team. And during each of the player's untap step, we get to untap all green or blue creatures we control. So, yay, especially since a lot of our creatures tap for mana. This is a way to keep mana open every turn and defend our board. Needlethorn Drake, 2 mana for this flying and death touch creature. That's actually really sweet to have those keywords in Simic. Paradise Druid, hexproof as long as it's untapped. And we can tap it for a mana of any color. The Pollen Bright Druid, we can put a 1/1 counter on a creature, or we can proliferate. Sweet options. Terramander, limited all-star back in this block. 1 blue for this flyer. We can pay a blue and 7 to adapt 4. That ability's cost is reduced for each instant and sorcery card in our graveyard. We do have a few, of course. We're playing Simic after all, and we do need to defend our board with various instants and sorcery. So if we don't get a counter on this any other way, we could pay a little bit of mana and make this humongous. The Quarian Elves. When this enters the battlefield, we get to choose a color. We can tap it for green or a mana of the chosen color. Seedborn Muse, again, it's a good way to keep our board open and respond to our opponent's threats. Skyrider Elf, bet you'd never see this one in Commander. It's a blue, green, and X for a 0/0 flyer. It has Converge. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So spending a green and a blue means it's coming in with at least 2 +1/+1 counters. Some of our mana dorks can tap for mana of other colors, so this could be bigger off the hop. And of course, when we swing, it's going to get Tanazir's base power and toughness, in addition to those counters. Spark Double, copy a creature, has a +1/+1 counter. We can also copy a Planeswalker if we need to. Spectral Sailor, 1 mana for this 1/1 flyer. It also has Flash. Pretty interesting. And we can also pay 4 mana and draw a card. So just a little bit of card draw if we have mana to dump. Silvok Explorer taps for a mana of a land that opponent controls could produce. So again, a good way of producing off-color mana if we need it. Thrumming Bird. Whenever this deals combat damage to a player, proliferate. Now, since this is going to be at least as big as our commander, it isn't so tempting to block it. Thunderfoot Bailoff. Also with the Lieutenant ability, 6 mana, 5/5. As long as we control our commander, this and other creatures we control get +2/+2 and trample. So it's an anthem effect that will stack on top of our commander's base power and toughness ability. The Trigon Predator, a good way to deal with our opponent's artifacts or enchantments just by smacking them with this beast. The Wild Beastmaster, whenever this attacks, other creatures we control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is Wild Beastmaster's power. So again, you stack it so that this gains Tanazir's base power and toughness first, then buffs the rest of the team. The Woodland Wanderer, again, has Converge, so it enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter on it for each color of mana spent to cast it. So it's a 2/2 to start plus the counters. Has Vigilance and Trample, relevant keywords, and of course it's going to get a little bigger with our commander. Moving on to some enchantments with the Bear Umbra. Enchanted creature gets +2/+2, and whenever this creature attacks, untap all lands you control. So again, defend the board, defend our commander, and buff it and make it and the rest of the team a lot larger. Durable Handicraft. Sneaky little enchantment here. Whenever a creature enters the battlefield under our control, we may pay 1 to put a +1/+1 counter on that creature. We can also pay 6 and sacrifice the Handicraft to put a 1/1 counter on each creature we control. Evolutionary Escalation. So this is a good way to dump +1/+1 counters on our commander or even other members of our team. Yes, we have to give away some +1/+1 counters to one of our opponents to make this work. But I'm willing to pay that price because our team is going to be a lot bigger than their team, regardless. Military Intelligence. Whenever we attack with 2 or more creatures, draw a card. That's kind of the goal of the deck, is we're going wide with big creatures and knocking life totals down from 40 to 0. The Octopus Umbra. We really want to put this on our commander, turn our commander into a base 8/8 creature. And whenever this creature attacks, tap target creature with power 8 or less. So, takes away a blocker, makes our commander humongous, and protects it. Snake Umbra. Enchanted creature gets +1/+1, and whenever this deals damage to an opponent, draw a card. Our commander has trample, so yes, we want to give it the Snake Umbra and swing. 11 instants, including the Arcane Denial. It's very splashable counter magic. Beast Within. Destroy any permanent. Its controller gets a 3/3 beast. Our creatures will pretty much always be bigger as long as we have our commander. Straight up counterspell. Negate. Because the thing we're afraid of is board wipes. We do not want to get our board wiped. So, Damnation gets played. We're going to negate it. Running the Pugnify. Destroy a creature. Can't be regenerated. Its controller gets a 3/3 ape. Rapid Hybridization. Same thing, except it's a frog lizard instead. Reality Shift. Exiles a creature, and its controller will manifest the top card of their library. That means the top card of their library goes face down on the table as a 2/2 creature, and they can turn it face up by paying its mana cost. Resculpt. Exile an artifact or creature, its controller gets a 4/4. I was kind of iffy on this one, but the fact that it hits artifacts also may prove handy. Return of the Wildspeaker. Draw cards equal to the greatest power amongst non-human creatures we control. We don't really have much in the way of humans, do we? Alternatively, non-human creatures we control get +3/+3 until end of turn. Massive, massive power boost. They're running the Simic Charm. All 3 modes are pretty useful. Mode 1, target creature, namely Tanazir, gets +3/+3 until end of turn. Or permanents we control gain hexproof until end of turn. Somebody tries to target us with some removal, we can protect it. And return target creature to its owner's hand. All 3 of these are really excellent choices for us. Swan Song counters an enchantment, instant, or sorcery spell. Its control is going to get a 2/2 bird. I don't care about that. It's just a 2/2. Lands, we're going to run the Bonder's Enclave as a mana dump to get us some extra cards. Running the Breeding Pool, of course. Command Tower, Evolving Wilds, Fabled Passage, running the whole search package here. 11 Forests, Forge of Heroes. This one lets us choose a commander that entered the battlefield this turn. We get a 1/1 counter on it if it's a creature. So, as long as we have this extra, we can add +1/+1 counters to our commander. Guildmage's Forum, similar deal. Add 1 mana of any color, and if that mana is spent on a multicolored creature spell, it comes with an additional +1/+1 counter on it. 11 Islands, Llanowar Reborn with the Graft ability. So it's going to have a +1/+1 counter on this land. And at any time when we have a creature enter the battlefield, we can move that 1/1 counter from the land onto that creature. Lumbering Falls this here is just a man land at mana fixing and man land if we need it. Pendelhaven, as you can see, we've got a bunch of 1/1s. So being able to give that a +1/+2 boost pretty much for free. In addition to Tanazir's benefits. So what you do, of course, you tap the Pendelhaven first, give the creature +1/+2, and then it attacks. It's going to keep that bonus in addition to Tanazir's raising its power and toughness. Simic Growth Chamber, of course. Temple of Mystery for the Scry. Terramorphic Expanse. You have Maya Coast. It's been great to see these enemy pain lands reprinted in the new Commander set. One Planeswalker, Nissa, Voice of Zendikar. No, I do not have the zombie printing, just the regular one, but it doesn't matter. Because what we care about is, well, it's got two relevant activations. The +1 gives us a 0/1 plant token onto the battlefield, which we can eventually attack with, and it's going to be at least a 4/4. Or we can -2 and put a +1/+1 counter on each creature we control and really buff up our team. 5 sorceries, including the Containment Breach. I don't like the sorcery speed on this necessarily, but if we hit, say, a mana rock with it, it does give us a pest token. So this is kind of a take it or leave it. I figured I'd feature it here because, hey, destroy an artifact or an enchantment and maybe get a creature out of it. Seems pretty good. Creeping Corrosion. We're only running 4 artifacts, so, and really I don't care that much if we keep them or not. So why not literally destroy all of the artifacts? Ingenious Mastery. We could pay 3 mana to draw 3 cards. Yes, we'll be giving an opponent treasure tokens and a scry. Or we can just go blue 2X and dump mana into this and draw cards for ourselves. Obviously, it takes a little while to make this a favorable exchange. But 3 mana, 3 cards, and maybe some political activity on the board. I think it's worth a shot. Regrowth. This is the Mystical Archives version that's on screen here, and that's actually the version I have in the deck. I did pull a Mystical Archive Regrowth. Non-foil, of course, but that's alright. It's still a nice card. Shamanic Revelation. Imagine this one in our second main phase. Draw a card for each creature we control and gain 4 life for each creature we control with power 4 or greater. So yeah, 4 creatures out. We've attacked. They're still on board. Draw 4 cards, gain 16 life for 5 mana. I like it. And that is my take on Tanazir Quandrix. Obviously, this is a very open-ended commander. I chose a very, very aggressive strategy with this build. I might even have too many little creatures. So what does everyone think about that and the creature choices? Maybe we can buff that up a little more. Other cards I've considered in here include Gaia's Anthem. Just an enchantment that gives the whole board +1/+1. It's essentially +2/+2 for anyone that's not Tanazir, really, because Tanazir would be a 5/5, and then everybody else would be a 5/5 and still get the Anthem bonus, so 6/6 or better. So there's a lot to consider with this. Really playing with that attack trigger. It's a fun card. It's like I said, just a quick throw together build version. I played with a couple of people on the spell tables, and I didn't win that game per se, but I definitely intimidated my opponents with it, because there they are sitting with 21, and if I had a counter spell for their targeted removal at the time, I was knocking them out. So yeah, got a lot of great compliments on the early build, and I hope that everyone can take this list. They can run it as is, or maybe make the changes they need to make it really effective in their playgroup. And on that, well, 23 minutes, so it's time for me to go. Next up, I've only got 1 copy of this, but I'm gonna try and build a deck with this theme behind it anyways for the channel. And yeah, Dragon's Approach deck is, well, approaching. Until then, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll see you next time.